Hello everybody, my name is Bright Rose and welcome back to TerraTech World, where today we are going to be talking about the new terrain tools, what they kind of do, how to use them, and some of those little features that are a little bit more difficult to find or to utilize. So first of all, please do excuse the crudity of my little tech frame here, because we just wanted something that would run around, do the job, and I would be able to throw all the components of. And speaking of the components, we need to look at what we have. First of all, we've got the terrain tool, the business, the thing that we need in order to make everything work. We've got the terrain tank for storage of, well, debris and allowing us to use various terrain functions, and we have also got the smooth module and the rewild module. And how we're going to start this is, I'm not going to do this prettily, I am just going to throw these things onto the tech. The only two that you really need to care about is putting the terrain tank somewhere. It is quite an awkward shape, especially with the new cab that I'm using, and putting the terrain tool right on top of the terrain tank. The smooth module and the rewild module don't need to be connected to this, so you can just stick them anywhere. You know, I like to put them together, and they do kind of have some nice, pretty little patterns on that you can expose as well. But once you have the terrain tool added on, it is going to work just like any of your weapons and equipment. And you are going to have one of these various slots that you can tag it to. I've just got it onto my left mouse click because that is really simple. And it is by default going to give you this little focusing. And what basically happens when you left click and hold it down is it is going to start sucking the terrain out. And because it is connected directly to the terrain tank, all of this debris is going to get sucked into the terrain tank. It can only hold a maximum of 600, but the overflow will just go into your tech storage. So that isn't really an issue. You just need to make sure you have that 600 or whatever in the terrain tank so you can utilize the other abilities. And by default, it is going to extract material like this. This can be used for various little mining projects. You can undermine various minerals and trees and things like that just with the terrain cannon, the mining cannon that we had in the last patch. But this one is just going to allow you to deform the terrain quite simply like this. The trick that you want to do in order to access the other abilities is you want to press T and then whatever button you have mapped the activation to. That will bring up this little UI here. Now, there isn't really anything that explains that in the game, and it took me a long amount of time, and eventually my server mate Rexy asking on the TerraTech World's Discord exactly how it happens to bring that up. So you have various different options: the raise tool, the lower tool, which is the one that we have by default, the leveling tool, the smoothing tool, and we have the rewild tool. There is also dirty and cement, but they're just things that we're not going to bother with at the moment. You can guess exactly what they are. They're just two different terrain textures that you can use. But right now, we are just going to concern ourselves with these ones. Like I say, the lower is the default, and it will just suck out all of the debris from a specific area. If you go onto the raising tool or any of the other ones that add material back, it will begin extracting it from your terrain tank, and when it does so, it will put it down as this grey stone debris, cement, whatever you want to call it, pattern, and it will just begin rapidly filling in the area. If you then want to go and use things like the level tool or the smooth tool, well, you can just get into the usual. You know how this kind of stuff works. It's standard for games like this. It will just flatten out your big areas like that, and it will begin to deplete the debris that you have in the terrain tank as you use it. Now, the only other one that we really want to pay attention to, the smooth and level tool kind of just do the same. they will extract and they will deposit material depending on what the terrain that you hover over is, to bring it to that set level. They're very useful, especially where you have things like your ramps clipping in to the terrain. But what the other one is the rewild, and that quite simply is going to take this grey texture or areas of dirt like this and just turn it back into the basic area that we've got. One thing that I haven't actually tried out yet is whether if you go to a different biome, it is going to change it into that default biome, which I would make the assumption it probably is. But right now, it is so far away to get to one of the other biomes like the desert. Well, it's probably not going to work. So let's just do a little experiment. Are we going to be able to fill in one of these craters? Yes, we are. There we go. And that is pretty much what we were thinking is going to happen. As you can see, I did a little bit of crude messing around last night when I discovered all these various features. So there is a little bit of an art to this, a little bit of a mess around, but it's just another one of those skills that you can kind of get used to, just throwing bits together and filling in these holes, smoothing things out, and just making it much easier for your techs to get around through all of these areas. And there is a lot of coastal cliffs that we are probably going to be smoothing out and making some nice sweeping roads just to ease our getting around, especially into the brand new desert biome that turned up with the 0.5 update. I hope this was helpful, just so you get these little details, especially with opening that UI with the T button. I'm not entirely sure if it's a bug that is meaning that the UI isn't popping up when you access the terrain tool, or whether it just isn't actually that detailed in terms of it letting you know exactly how to utilize these new features in the game. Either way, that's how it works, and hopefully that was helpful for you.